Welcome back to Confessions of a Recruiter with Blake and Declan. We are on a global mission to build the world's largest community of recruiters so we can all connect and succeed together.
That's right. If you want to check out more of Confessions of a Recruiter, jump onto confessions.tv, subscribe to our bi-weekly newsletter, access merch, and if you want to chat to us directly, join our Discord at XR House with the links below. Now, we hope you enjoy this episode.
All right, we're kicking off with this week's episode. John, thanks so much for joining us.
Pleasure, lads.
So you're the director of Start In Recruitment.
Yep.
RecView.
Yep.
What else do you have going on, mate?
We do Start in Australia, which is very similar to Starting Recruitment, but moving UK recruiters over. So all in that rookie to rec and rec to rec international space.
Nice, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be a different perspective.
Yeah.
Because a lot of recruiters just focus on the experienced ones and moving them around.
Yeah, well, we set it up 5 years ago when they changed the visa requirements for, which you guys probably wouldn't be across being Aussie, but for recruiters from the UK not being able to get sponsored anymore. And then we've always just liked focusing on a specific niche of getting people into the industry rather than moving senior people around. So it's always, and same as Starting in Australia, it only builds up the industry rather than moving local people around. So it's always been that focus of building teams. Yeah.
Nice.
Let's start with Start In Recruitment.
Yeah, that's the baby. That's the old one. So, yeah.
So I have never seen another recruitment agency that focuses purely on getting recruiters with no experience into the industry.
Yeah, that's why it's been good.
Yeah.
We've never had any, when we set it up, there weren't any direct competitors. Now other people do it a bit, but it helped from just like a brand. Like when I set it up, it was all about just building a brand around doing one thing. And so then all our marketing, even obviously the name goes with it.
Yeah.
And it's made it, it was difficult at the start because everyone's like, why am I paying you for people with no recruitment experience? But then as we slowly got a bit of a name and did the right thing, it worked out quite well.
That's awesome.
So we actually, I've engaged you before.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
Did he fuck you around? What was that client experience like?
It wasn't the best client experience, but we all grow.
Did he actually get back to your emails at all?
After offering the candidate, or
Wait. So walk me through
Blake's
this, mate.
notorious, mate. Let's go all in on this.
So, because this is how I remember it.
Yep.
I remember it.
Confessions.
So I reached out to you first.
You reached out to me. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hate when people reach out to you and ghost you. And then, and the candidate's name was John, and he was pretty decent.
Yeah.
Well, did I only do one interview?
You interviewed him and offered him,
Yep.
and then ghosted me.
Ghosted you.
And John, the candidate.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
That's right. First time, but it's a growing. We don't traditionally anymore do a lot with sales recruitment agencies.
Because of that, I fucking wouldn't either.
Not because of that. So I'm defending you here a little bit. There's not a heap of value in what we do for sales recruitment agencies, right? Because obviously and even when we go and get hit up by sales recruitment agencies now, they're speaking to candidates that they can flip into recruitment, right? So then they're turning around, interviewing our candidates that they're probably finding themselves and then paying us for a fee. So we're not actually adding a heap of value. So what we tend to focus on is mainly like the tech, finance, construction and medical industries because they're not speaking to those candidates whatsoever in their day-to-day come-ins. Whereas like we do have a few sales recruitment agencies that use us, but they're not our big clients. They're the sporadic ones when they can't find someone to meet their needs.
And I've learned being a really good recruiter.
Before you go through that, sorry, I'll just get you to get your microphone a little closer to your face.
How's that?
There we go.
Yep, perfect.
There we go.
Yeah. I can hear myself in it now.
Yeah.
Don't ghost us, mate.
Yeah. Probably good that wasn't recorded.
So, mate, I think like some of the best recruiters, the recruiters do well is when they really understand their industry.
Yes.
So are you mainly taking people from industry and making them become recruiters?
Mate, that is the sweet spot.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen all the time, obviously. So we work a vast array of candidates. So we do, surprisingly, we do a lot of people who are probably, over 30 who have 5 years within a specific industry, like, selling fences or selling something into the construction industry. They translate into construction recruitment really, really well, obviously. But there are a lot of people earlier on in their career, say like grads with 12 months door knocking experience, who have no idea what industry they're interested in. And so they're still getting roles in recruitment, but they're obviously at the more green spectrum of that because they don't have that industry knowledge. So we work a wide range of those kind of candidates.
Walk me through the salary side of things
Yep.
with candidates, like salespeople that are going into recruitment.
Yep.
I'd imagine you'd have a lot of conversations around salary, commission. This is your first year, go in and prove
That's
yourself.
like our whole. So when people work very process driven, so all of that we just send out documentation. We've got videos on it. The thing to remember on comms that we always like to remind people is a lot of people who have done sales roles before recruitment have been sold commissions or different things like that. So when you're running them through the commissions, they're like, oh yeah, I'm not actually going to get paid them, right?
Yeah.
So, and a lot of the times they can be taking a bit of a step down in salaries because salaries at the minute are probably like 60 to 65 plus super for those year or two salespeople going in. On the other end, where we're placing people with more market experience in a specific industry, where the highest we've done is with no recruitment experience, but I think this bloke had done like 8 years in government setting up MSPs. He started on 90 plus super. So there is an array there. He obviously came with a lot more experience. He now runs their government division, so it was a better hire. But of those, your traditional entry-level recruitment things, your salaries are 60 to 65. Last year, some people were paying 70, 75. It's gone back. Yeah, last year was a great year for recruitment, as we all know. But it did set up a lot of rookies to not succeed as much as they wanted because the target was really on them straight away. So that's the other conversation that we're having with rookies when they come through. It's like, hey, you don't want to be the biggest salary in the company. You don't want to have these massive targets on you straight away. You want to go in 60, 65, prove yourself, earn comms, and then ask for those bigger salaries is always kind of our advice to people.
And so is your industry, getting recruiters outside of recruitment into recruitment, is it client focused or is it candidate focused?
Mate, good question. So obviously a combination of both being in recruitment, but we really focus on the candidate and bringing them to market, right? So what we're doing is we're constantly sourcing across different channels for good salespeople. So that can be across obviously your traditional Seeks, but we also advertise on TikTok, which I don't get, Instagram, Facebook, things like that for salespeople that don't know what recruitment is. And then it's about having that conversation with them, trying to gauge what kind of market they are going to be interested in. Like if they're a little bit dorky, and I can say that I've placed mates into tech recruitment who've been a bit dorky. I was in tech recruitment. If they're naturally curious about, learning new tech, if they want the market to constantly shift, that's a good market for them. If they're a little bit more like sales orientated and just want that kind of transactional relationship, they might be more suited to labor hire. So it's all about assessing the person's personality and trying to match the market that they're going to go into with the agency that they're going into.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what about temp versus perm?
Well, funnily enough, I should know more about this, but I've only ever done perm recruitment.
True.
So I did tech, perm recruitment in infrastructure, and I was shit at it, and then moved into this, which I do okay in now. I've obviously spoken to lots of clients about temp, how it looks. Do you guys do much temp in like the sales?
None.
No, yeah, because it just the market doesn't match it, right?
Yeah.
So like,
who gets a temp salesperson?
who gets a temp rookie recruit? Because I've always got like people trying to slide into the LinkedIn DMs like the gurus, and they're like, you should have a temp book, and it's like, I'm not going to be able to place a temp rookie recruiter, right? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But what that comes down to, where we kind of find we're sending people for interviews, right? So that ultimately the client decides where they're going to go. We like to try and roughly guess. If someone's come from more like a transactional sales, like, charity call center or things like that, where they're used to doing 3 deals a day and that's how they get their kicks, they're probably not going to do well in executive search where it's a 6-week process just to get the job on and then find the candidate, because they're not going to get those little dopamine kicks throughout the day, which they have come from those sales. Whereas if someone's come from sales, like we just placed a guy into medical recruitment who used to sell, I'm going to butcher this, big machinery for like RSL clubs to recycle all their stuff, right? But it's $600K, the price of the product. So he obviously could move into a longer process recruitment because he'd done that. So it's just about aligning what people have done and their expectations of what the role will look like. And that's how you kind of match temp and perm. But the beautiful thing is, obviously, again, we're not making the decisions. Clients have usually managed people, or their desk that they've got available happens to be perm or temp. And then, as you know, people change throughout their career. So, no, we always tell candidates, like, you're not going to be stuck on one specific market for the rest of your life, or most people aren't. Some people are.
What's the biggest objection you find? Because I'm assuming, let me just think out loud here on what I feel your conversations would be trying to get people into recruitment.
Yes.
So you whack up an ad, obviously you deal with applicants, but maybe you might get a job on with a client in construction and they go, look, I just want someone that's sold to the construction industry. You go, all right, cool, let me try and find someone. And then you're hitting someone up and, hey, look, I'm just thought I'd give you a call. You've come up as a good match to a role. It's nothing what you've ever done before, but you could be a good match. Do you want to talk about recruitment?
So, we don't do it that way.
Okay.
So for that exact reason, as you said, I'm like, how can I answer this? But like the truth wouldn't be how we do it. So
how do you do it?
So we're constantly, again, we're candidate led, right? So we're constantly scouring candidates. When we find someone that we feel is a good recruitment, agencies will always look at someone, right? It's not like a traditional sales role or construction role where it's like, hey, someone's left, we need to fill this, or someone's got promoted. Because you're in a profit seat. If someone is good and they feel that they're going to pick up that market, they're going to get on with the team, you're going to add them if you can, right? Because the thinking is in 6 to 12 months, they're going to be profitable. They've made their money back. So we're really just always assessing candidates. Then when we find a candidate that we think's good for, say, X company, we're sending them there, right? They might be looking, they might not. Obviously, we've always got jobs on from clients that we're working, but we are very candidate-led.
Wow.
Yeah, because the whole premise of setting up, right? Like I started in big corporate tech recruitment, which, as you probably can tell, like, not my style at all. So
How'd you go?
Shit. It took me I've knocked on doors in the UK because I went over the UK, finished a marketing degree.
You're Australian though.
Yeah. So I grew up in Sydney. So went over the UK, did that, thought I'd get a marketing job, ended up like the first day in this new job, knocking on doors. I'm like, what's going on here? But it wasn't that hard to sell because the English love an Australian accent. Like it's just chat about home and away. Give me your bank details for your charity subscription, right? Then came back to recruitment and like I said, like started S3, which are massive global, great training.
Huge.
And so I always thought like there, because everyone always talks about the training being great. I'm like, oh, was it? But then speaking with like agencies and people, like the training was actually really good. Like you learned how to hustle, like to pull leads from jobs, to sell back into agencies that you're working for, like to really kind of think of it on a bigger perspective.
Can you share some?
Yeah. What do you want to know?
Oh, like how do you? So say you're looking at a CV or speaking to a candidate. What are unique ways?
So like that's the first thing you learn. And funnily enough, like one of my good clients, I can drop his name, Russell Webb, who works for Evolution Tech. He used to be S3's big hiring manager, and for all our training for like when people are coming through, we want to explain to them what recruitment is. So on their first day, they're not just like blank stared. So he's helped me do all that and the training works. But it's, when you're speaking to a candidate, you get in their hiring manager's name, where else they're looking, where they're interviewing and generating those leads. You then speak into their manager because you know that person's going to leave, and then you're building that relationship so that when they do leave, you've got the perfect candidate because you've already been sourcing for it 2 weeks before any other agency has, right? So you're really developing that. It's obviously like what people now probably consider like cowboy recruitment, but it really got you thinking of different ways of.
That's considered cowboy recruitment.
Yeah, well,
I feel
like
like
I thought
that's
that'd
just
be
the
like really
clinical-
smart.
I agree.
high
It's super
IQ.
smart, but like this is the thing when you're dealing with lots of recruitment agencies, everyone's got a different perception on what recruitment is and how it should be. So again, it comes down to when we put it again. Honestly, like mate, and it comes to different industries, but you speak to one person and they're like, "This is the way recruitment should be done," and that's what makes it our job actually quite difficult in terms of speaking to candidates about a specific role, because we like them to interview at 2 or 3 different agencies so that they can pick the best agency for them, right? They go and see one and they're like, oh, this is how they do recruitment. Then they go and see another one and they're told that way's the wrong way. And so then it's about just managing those expectations and getting them to figure out which way is going to be the best way for them.
So, John, what's the right way to recruit?
Oh, mate, I have no clue.
But there's one common theme. Everyone wants to change the perception of recruitment.
Yes.
It is. It's true. Yeah. Like I always say, like our job, as much as, and this used to my pitch to clients used to be, hey, we advertise on TikTok, on Instagram. We're getting salespeople in email sequences that don't know what recruitment is, and now we just say it's like, hey, we've got 3 of us. We speak to candidates 40 hours a week. We're speaking to pick packers who might be good at recruitment. We're sending you the few best ones so that you can select. We're saving you a lot of time. In that time, you could do one of your deals that are worth 30K. our average deal size is 11 or 12K, you're saving yourself 28 grand by using us, right? Because that's what we do. We just place people into roles. But you're right, everyone does want to change the perception of recruitment, which is good. But
It's
yeah,
everyone's tagline.
Yeah.
What is the perception anymore?
Yeah.
It's been
Changing the
changed that many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. And it always comes from someone who's had like a really, really bad. I got mates who are like, oh, I dealt with this recruiter. They were horrible. It's like, well, no, you just didn't get the job, firstly. And then, because it's an emotional time when someone's looking for a new job, right? So you're hitting into that like core human nature of like being a bit scared. But then they're the same person that 2 weeks later writes a great post for a recruiter that's got them the job. So like the data, it's why like when you look at all data and awards and different things, it's obviously very skewed, right? Because it's based on that person. The same person that leaves a great review leaves a horrible one when they don't get the job, even though 99% of the time it's not the recruiter's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I want to flip this a little bit now.
Flip it up. Yep.
I want to go to your branding.
Yes.
Okay. So your branding, Start In Recruitment, the most unique branding I've seen
thank you. Yeah.
out of any recruitment. Have you seen his branding?
Yeah, we were talking about
awesome.
the Lilo pool.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what the branding strategy session was when starting the agency.
Strategy session is a very, very big stretch there. Yeah.
The pink flamingo, mate. Walk me through.
So my best mate Marty, who's he'll probably be watching this eventually, graphic designer for he was up in Burleigh for like SDS board riders. And we're thinking for like a year and a half, I had no logo, right? We're just working, doing it. And then we just decided on a flamingo mainly, and this is the groundbreaking realization, everyone asks about it, right? So that's all it comes down to, right? So everyone asks a question like, no reason. And then every other brand that we've got like Starting Australia is a different bird. So it all links back and we're like, what's different and unique into the same animal but different, and birds were like an easy, obvious choice. But mainly, everyone just goes, oh, why do you have a flamingo? And everyone remembers it, right? It's the same reason that we've got...
The 100th cow, mate.
100th cow method. Yeah, you do 100 birds. So, mate, imagine if you saw
Wish I'd done 100 birds. But couldn't help but edit that one out.
No, don't say that comment, mate.
Yeah, what's the 100 cow?
100 cow?
Yeah.
So, there's this... It's not even a theory. I think I've proved it right.
Yep.
But say you've got a field of cows.
Yep.
So we just drove 993 kilometres yesterday. Went from Brisbane to Parkes.
Yep.
So we're driving past a lot of cows, and they're all just munching on grass. Everyone's doing the day-to-day shit.
Yep.
And then you drive past, and there's this cow on its back haunches dancing with a sombrero hat on.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Which
you're going to
cow
notice
would you
that
remember?
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, 100%. And it's so like we've even. I like that. Yeah, might steal that.
100th cow.
Like even all the team have the same pink logo behind their head on LinkedIn, so that when anyone's commenting or posting or doing anything, pink, it's a color that most recruitment agencies didn't use, so we went with it. Kind of, it just stood out.
Yep.
So that's the premise behind. I wish there was a strategy meeting or we'd engage Saatchi and Saatchi for that, but it was
Mate,
people ask
get
questions.
that outcome. If you went to a media agency or a marketing agency and you want to stand out, they'd probably water you down and just put you like everyone else.
Mate, that's the hot, like, because we've got Katie, who's our marketing manager at the moment, and she's great. She like makes the videos because beforehand, like I was saying to you before, I tried to do them, and I'm not by any way graphic. Like my visualization is horrible. I don't know what looks good and what looks bad. But literally for our marketing, it's just standing out, right? If you get people to watch that first 3 seconds, if they actually engage with it, then my background's digital marketing, right? So I've done this for like a few e-commerce brands beforehand. And if people engage with that, then they'll at least have an understanding of what you're about. But really what we use it for is so that when we call new clients, they know who we are, right? Because it's like, oh, yeah, you guys are the guys who post heaps on LinkedIn. That's much better than a complete cold call because it just eases you into that conversation. And then the other thing, and I'm always telling my guys this, because obviously when you do things like this, you guys would know your mates just comment on it or your mates send it in the group chat and you're like, oh, but it makes your life so much easier because everyone would love if their team did that. You know, if their recruiters were engaged, if their recruiters made those cold calls from those leads who had liked their posts, but a lot don't. So yeah, it's not too hard to stand out on LinkedIn.
So
It's not too hard to stand out in recruitment. It's
Yeah,
very archaic,
true.
outdated.
Mate, very
prehistoric.
like super. So like it's just doing different things. Like we've always done video interviews that we send. We now our BD, we send personalized BD messages, different things like that. Even like 5 years ago when we set up, now it's hard because like if we forget it, we're buggered. But every starter, and this isn't unique to recruitment, but we always send Krispy Kreme donuts or we rock up with them so that, and this will ruin the secret, everyone else in the office, because we work with the same clients over and over again, right, knows that we place that person. So that means that the big billers who usually wouldn't go and speak to that person, we might have placed, so they go over and they go, oh, John or Steve or Pete placed you. And so it just makes that first day a little bit easier. Whereas usually if you go in, everyone's so busy with their own desk that they don't all, and this is based on my time at S3, so I don't know if it's true for all agencies, but a lot of the time don't have that conversation. So it's all those little like 1%ers that can improve your brand or your perception, and just people knowing who you are and what you do, which I think 100%. Is like a basic marketing 101, but it's like, it
Not
works.
done in recruitment, mate.
No, though, a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people try. And I always say, like, we're quite lucky because ultimately the decision comes down to me, who's probably not the best decision maker on these things. But a lot of people aren't allowed to do it because the people who are making the decisions want it to still be professional and corporate, which for some markets you need to be. Like
really?
we place...
You reckon?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm just playing devil's advocate, right? Because I've got clients on either side. But I don't know. For like finance, you couldn't be posting stupid videos, I'm guessing, right? Because it would diminish the brand. Whereas we place people like we don't have it as our slogan anymore, but essentially it's placing people from shitty sales jobs into recruitment, right? Yep. So all our content's...
That's a great slogan, mate.
Yeah, it's good because like most of the people we place like from door knocking, charity centres. Steve, who works with me, came from... We did a SaaS background before that. He worked at a company. I won't mention them. I don't know if they're still around, but the auto dialer, 300 sales calls a day, right? Same as Pete. He came from like a SaaS SDR background where he just pounded the phone. They're the people that we place, right? So when they move into recruitment, it's a more professional job. It's better. The comms are better. The money's better. But they're the people that we're targeting the marketing at. So if we had super boring content, they're not really going to engage with that. And then because our clients are wanting those people from us, as much as a lot of clients might look at that and go, oh, that's not great for recruitment, they're still engaging with us because they know that we're using those marketing channels to get those candidates that they're after. So it works in that regard.
And like your company's called Start In Recruitment, mate. Yep. How did you get started in recruitment?
Yeah, good question. So I came back from the UK and then was just looking for a job. And one of my best mates, his partner, Courtney, worked at S3. And
Are they in Australia?
Yeah, S3 in Australia. They've shut up now, just after COVID, and yeah, rocked in, had no idea what recruitment was, had no idea what tech was, couldn't turn on a computer, and yeah, fell into tech recruitment, did that for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And then when they changed the visa requirements, because I was doing a bit of digital marketing on the side, set up basically ads on Facebook when Facebook was popular that put salespeople into a funnel on what recruitment was. The premise was that S3 at the time were paying, I think, like $6K a pop for referrals to get local salespeople in. So I'm like, sweet, I'm going to make an extra $60K here a year, laughing, right? Our internal recruiter just didn't interview anyone. And because I'd sent them all this information, I saw them popping up, getting different recruitment jobs. So then I'm like, I'll just go do this myself. Maybe a bit naive, but eventually it worked out. So yeah.
So that's how you did Start In Recruitment.
Yeah, that's the premise behind it. So if we'd had an internal recruiter who'd hustled, I probably never would have done it. But yeah, it's things aligned.
Interesting. So you started your own agency with 2 years experience?
Yeah, something.
Welcome to the club, brother.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Oh, mate, beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll tell you a story because they're shut up now, but to test the market, I did do, and everyone kind of knows this now, I did do like 2 deals when I was still there.
Oh, so you're a little bit dodgy.
Yeah, but different market. They then became one of my good clients. So it was fine. I just wanted to test the market, and it worked. And then, yeah, obviously.
Mate, what's that like? You're getting paid from someone, but then you're also getting a couple of big juicy fees.
Before I did that, as soon as I got the offers done, because I tested it up in, I think like Central Coast, Newcastle, not a heap of agencies. So then did the 2 here in Sydney. And as soon as I was gone, I was good mates with my manager and everything. I just went in, I said, hey, leaving, doing this. But it was still, so a little bit dodgy, but.
How'd you juggle it?
Well, because everything that I was doing back then was like automated leads, right? So like ads across Facebook, Instagram, I was just getting the CV. And then what I'd do at night was go through, get all the emails of recruitment agencies in Sydney, put them into this, you're talking about being old school, put it in MailChimp because I didn't have a CRM or anything like that. And then time it to send out at, I think like 8:15 in the morning. And then on my lunch break, I would just call through anyone who'd come back, book in the interview time, and yeah, did it that way.
That's
Yeah,
awesome,
yeah,
mate.
good.
It's only,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
only
yeah.
a reward if you're not in it.
Yeah. Well, maybe I shouldn't have told that story, but
I'm just geeing you up, mate.
they're gone now.
Hey,
S3 have heaps of money. No. But no, I think then, after left there, did the deals, and then S3 became one of my clients because obviously heaps of my mates worked in there.
Yeah.
And it was all good and kind of, it was different markets and
'Cause,
stuff
mate,
like
I've heard
that.
who was it? I think it was the director or founder of S3. They've grown like exponential.
They're huge, man. They're massive. Yeah,
Huge.
the 4 dudes who set it up, they had like computer futures in the UK. Funnily enough, like I've had mates who, when I lived in the UK, then went and worked at S3, and then I started working with them here. Like a lot of my clients at some stage or other have worked at S3. They were just like,
And what's it like working in a global, expanding business that's growing that fast?
well, they're shut now in Australia, so but no, it was good. Like it's big agency, right? They're the kind of agency you want to start with. Like half my mates now are people that I worked with there, right? So it's like that big agency. I was 23, 24. Everyone went to the pub on a Tuesday night. Everyone was grafting. Like it was good.
Tuesday night.
Yeah, the old school. Yeah, what was your first recruitment experience like? I feel like I'm saying all these very normal Sydney recruitment stories, and
Nah, we barely drank in our.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nah.
Oh, the culture back here, like us, Hayes, all of that was like. And
That's what
it's-
we hear, and we just
Yeah,
never got to
okay.
experience it.
Oh yeah, probably yeah. That's why you guys look quite fit and I look like this. But yeah, it probably worked out well for you. No, that was like definitely the culture, and the only thing that really shifted it, because obviously now I see it all the time, right? Was COVID really. So people got used to not going out all the time, and then people starting coming back into recruitment were looking for agencies where you weren't there 5 days a week, where you weren't kind of shunned if you didn't go out, if you weren't in the clique. So in that regard, like COVID was quite good for the recruitment industry. Like it definitely matured it in terms of people being in it, and as well people wanting to get in it. Before that, we were mainly placing like younger people into recruitment, year sales, going in. And now we place obviously people who look at it as a professional career where they can make a lot of good money. So that shift has definitely been good for the industry.
Okay, so you started your agency with 2 years experience.
Yep.
We find a lot of people have, and I brought this up before, like imposter syndrome around, do I have enough experience to do this on my own?
Yeah.
And we speak to, I've spoken to 10-year recruiters and
Yeah.
gone, mate, why don't you just start your own thing?
Yeah.
And they go, oh, mate, I probably need a little bit more experience before I go and do something like that. And
Yeah.
it blows my mind because I started with maybe 18 months.
Oh, you're the same. Yeah, nice. Yeah,
Definitely started with 2 years.
I think there's something to be said about that, like ignorance is bliss. You know, like you get into that point of 8, because now would I recommend someone doing it with, when I see people who do it with 18 months experience now, I'm like, oh, that's a bit risky. It's like, oh, can you say that?
Yeah.
But it definitely was like, I think for me, it was just that shift in the market. People needed rookies. They couldn't hire them. No one else was just specifically doing that. I was kind of over being in tech, like infrastructure recruitment was never going to be for me. I just did not enjoy the market. So
Yeah,
it was
you got to
like,
enjoy the people you talk
right.
to.
So, and
eh?
that's the biggest lesson that we still carry today when we speak to people. We send like, cool, what do you want to work in? A lot of people say tech because they think it's sexy. They're going to be dealing with like Uber, right? And it's like, no, you're dealing with the people who build Uber, right? So if you like that, sweet. If you don't, it's not the right market. So that's probably where we've actually had quite a lot of success is it's really sitting down, drilling the candidates, understanding who they are, who they'll enjoy talking to. And then just because I've been around the industry for so long, I know what different people do well in different recruitment agencies just from, speaking with them or having mates who work in different agencies. So you can kind of assess the personality, right? Like you two, very outgoing. I can tell you do really well in sales recruitment because it's just more around the chat. Like the three of us probably wouldn't nail a really hard technical recruitment thing because you're not leveraging your personality to do well in that market. You need to really go down and understand it. Whereas someone who might be a bit more introverted might love learning the new tech and what's going on and having those conversations with people. And they don't, because like developers don't always want to have that one-on-one relationship with recruiters. I've got a few mates who are developers and they hate recruiters, right? So if you're a recruiter who can understand that, then you're going to do much better than someone who still goes around and like tries to be that flashy recruiter because it doesn't suit that market.
And do you reckon like the things you've learnt yourself. You've got 2 years experience before you started.
Yep.
And all this, you've done more than, most recruiters do in their whole career, and you've done it since you were 23.
Yeah,
So
I wouldn't say that, but thank you.
Oh, well, mate,
It's the Pump Up podcast.
Yeah. Just hype me up. Gotta go back and smash some gold balls now.
honestly, mate, we speak to a lot of recruiters. And I think it's safe to say that. So, is it because you just threw yourself in that you get these opportunities now, and you got that compounding effect?
100%.
Yeah,
That is 100%. Yeah. Like I've always just been comfortable in, and this is bigging myself up, I love throwing myself into awkward conversations, right? Like when I lived in the UK, couldn't get into gigs, so I used to whack my camera over my arm and just walk in, pretend I was a photographer, right? All the way up to like, you
Logan's
did that?
done it every time.
Mate, there's this club called XOY near where I lived, and they owned a few other clubs. I got to the point I'd rock up with mates, no camera, and they're like, "Hi, John," and they just thought I worked for the group, not for that club, for the group, right? Because I got the names, I looked at it. So I've always liked just doing weird shit, maybe is probably the best way to put it.
That's
and then
awesome,
when
mate.
you can put that into like a work environment, it just works. I think
Happens.
I just need to adjust my headset here because it's
You're
going
right,
gangbusters.
you're having too much fun.
Yeah, I know, mate. Just bobbing the head too much.
So what we generally talk about as well, and we find with a lot of recruiters that have gone out on their own,
Yep.
is when you're a recruiter, you kind of stay in your lane. You're very sheltered.
Yeah.
You've got the wool over your eyes, so to speak. And then when you finally go, all right, I'm going to try and have a crack at this myself, you almost come to this like realization or this mindset of abundance of like things you can try and fail and try again. And,
Yep.
and you become much more entrepreneurial in spirit.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you find that transition, or are you still going through that transition at the moment now, a number of years in? Is it still kind of bubbling away, or how is that going?
It's probably like a problem, if I'm being honest, because I'm always wanting to try and do new things. And that's probably why Starting Recruitment was always going to be a lifestyle business, right? I'm like, sweet, can come in, can bill, I'll go live in Bali, I'll travel around. Sweet, a one-man band is not a lifestyle business because you just do so much more work, right? Like everyone's like, I'm going to do this, I'll bill $500,000 and I'll sit there. It's like, no, if you're billing anywhere decent, you're working for it, right? Like there's no shortcut for that. So that's a good lesson to learn quickly. But then probably during COVID, I started getting more into like tech stuff. Love recruitment tech, was using quite a bit. And so then started learning how to build apps, which is funny because I hated tech recruitment. It just doesn't work out there. So that's kind of where we're going down more. So we're like launching a SAP. Well, we've launched a SaaS app like for video, and Steve and Peter are kind of taking over the grunt of Starting Recruitment. So Steve does the Sydney market. So all my clients, Pete does Melbourne. I still do the small ones like Brisbane, Perth, Canberra, Gold Coast, like ones that don't require as much time. And then my focus is around trying to build up that tech business. Because as you know, like perm recruitment businesses are great, hard to scale without that contract book, right? So the point, and then we're doing some other things on the side as well, but they're more in partnerships. But that's the premise of them, is to kind of be a contract book on the side, because I just like doing stuff.
100%.
I guess. Yeah.
So when we were engaged with each other and potentially recruiting a role for Vandito.
Oh, yep. Back to this. I tried to get you off the hook, mate.
Yeah, mate, let it go, Blake. It's not going to end good.
You were sending me video interviews,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so I thought, wow, this guy's sending video interviews. This is a bit of a kind of a ballsy way to send across candidates, because generally you want to control the process to a degree, and you want to present your candidate, write out a little blurb about how good they are, and then just lock them in for an interview, and then
here's the thing with that though, right? They're still going to go and interview with the client. So regardless of if you control that because that was my thinking as well, control it, get that first round interview. If they get there and the client doesn't like them, they're still not going to hire them because you've got them into that first round interview, right? So the point behind the videos was to basically save clients a heap of time, because they can watch a 10-minute interview. Is this person the right fit? Which in turn is going to save the candidate a lot of time, because recruitment directors, agency owners can talk a heap, right? And people wanting to go into recruitment can talk a lot. So if we're teaming someone up with like 3 or 4 first-round interviews that week, that can be like 6 or 7 hours out of their working week. It starts to become a bit of an issue. So the idea behind the videos, because I do completely understand what you're saying, you want to control that whole process, and we've built new features in that do allow you to, but you just want to give the client a little bit more. And what we find is, because you're only sending over good candidates, right? Well, you're trying to, that's your job as a recruiter. We get more interview requests quickly from the video because people go, oh, cool, they're having a bit of a conversation, they're chatting, yep, they've done sales, and it just gives them a little bit more than a CV would, because usually when you send that CV, coming back, asking questions, cool, you're going back, cool, this, what did they do? Why'd they leave that job so quickly? We just answer all of that in a video so that we basically save ourselves time. The whole thing that I've ever tried to do in recruitment is just like automate everything so that we can speak to more people, because again, our fees are like quite small compared to say a tech or finance recruitment agency, so we need to do more of them. So everything's got to be processed and save as much time. So if we can just record basically the FAQ of this candidate, it just saves us speaking to the client, going back and forth, and we find just locks in that video interview quicker. And then if they don't like them, well, they're not going to like them in that first round interview if they did go see them anyway. That's the kind of thinking.
What's your submission to send out ratio? Has it,
Wish I
do you
could tell
reckon
you
it's
that.
increased since you've had the platform?
So so it's hard. So yeah, good question, because we're trying to build in the stats and analytics to RecView now. So we use JobAdder as a CRM, but they're not integrated yet. So we're sending candidates out. I couldn't give you a flat figure.
Would you
on
get?
that.
Let's just use a ballpark.
Yeah.
Would you say 50-50? Like every 2 videos you send to a client to say this is a good candidate, you'll get 1 interview locked in?
Oh, 100%. So gotcha. So if we're sending a candidate, we're sending it to multiple recruitment agencies. And this is what I say to the guys. If we record a candidate, so we have the conversation with them, we have the phone call, then we have the video chat before we're recording. If you're recording someone, you've got to send it out, because otherwise don't waste your time, don't waste the candidate's time. If we're recording it and sending it out, I'd say probably 80% of those candidates get interviewed. So our job is like starting recruitment, right, is to just qualify down. It's to speak to 100 candidates a week so the recruitment director doesn't, and send them 2 or 3 ones that are going to be relevant for their business, right? Again, in a bit of a luxurious position, because most recruitment agencies just want to interview people, right? Because they want to gauge if that person's going to be the right fit for them. So those stats are probably a bit skewed because of the industry that we're in. But by the time we record them and sending them out, they're most likely getting an interview.
Okay, so I want to just kind of walk you through a few situations to understand how I can use RecView in Vendito.
Yep.
And you walk me through what makes sense, what doesn't make sense,
Yep.
and what your advice would be, right?
Yep.
So we're a sales recruitment agency. We do a lot of sales recruitment in the construction industry.
Yep.
What, like, if I was using RecView, what's the process for my consultants? Because you sell to recruiters.
Yep.
Yep. So what's the process for one of my consultants? Why is it a value add for her to use RecView to try and get engagement with her clients over and above banging out a 5-minute call and punching out a CV?
Yeah, good question.
Not saying that that's what she
Oh,
does.
mate. Yeah. I mean, just hypothetically.
Yeah. But so, because like you'll have to phone screen them, decide if they're a good fit, then convince them. I'd imagine there's a friction point there to get them on a video, to record a video.
Yeah, and this is the fun, because we've started onboarding, like starting recruitment clients and letting them use RecView so we can test it out. And a market that I thought would never be useful, RecView would be for, is for tech, right? But a few of our tech recruitment agencies are loving it because it's got a couple of things that you can use. So yes, you can use it to record a candidate, but it's completely white labeled. You create your client portal, so all your clients, so cements that relationship with clients, right? So when you send an email, they can click it. Yes, they can see the CV, but it's in their own portal. It's got on vendito.com.au, right? No mention of RecView. They can then view that. But then your recruiters can send prospecting messages to candidates and clients. So on LinkedIn, instead of seeing text, it's all video. So it's basically video at different parts where you'd be sending an email. And what we find is it just gets better buy-in rate from potential prospects if they're on LinkedIn. And then from clients, it just allows them, it makes them think that you're doing a better job, you know? So by
warts and all.
Right, because you go into that extra effort, and like at the end of the day as recruiters, like we charge quite a lot of money for someone to start there. So our thinking, or my thinking, has always been like, you got to provide the best service you possibly can. And if that means jumping on a video, recording it, asking questions that are specific to the role. So obviously we use RecView differently to how a lot of recruitment agencies do it, because our recruitment process is different. How a lot of recruitment agencies that are using it, they'll have candidates for a specific role, and they'll shortlist the 3 or 4 candidates that they want to send forward for that role, and they'll ask them all specific questions on that role, pop it into the job, the hiring manager looks at that, requests the interview in the app, right? Recruiter gets an email, locks it in. So that's kind of, it's just about adding more value so that you can separate yourself from every other recruitment agency that's just flicking a CV to them. And a lot of people who are now used to recruitment, who have had bad experiences with recruiters, go, oh, they've just downloaded this from Seek, they've sent it across, and now they're going to charge me 15 grand. So the reason we started doing video was for that, and then the benefits that we've found have come up since using it.
That's awesome. And
I was going to say, is that why you decided to start RecView? Because you obviously weren't using RecView.
No, yeah, I was using a different one, and super expensive. A lot of video tech is, because it's built on kind of legacy infrastructure. Tech's improved a lot over the years. And just speaking with a lot, like I love recruitment tech, right? So I've tried everything, use it all to automate and make everything more efficient, right? Video was the one thing that we couldn't get right. And then when I was getting Peter started, I'd started building RecView maybe 12 months before, and then that really rushed us because another license was going to cost like another $300, right?
$300 a month.
Yeah, for video tech. Video tech's expensive, right? So RecView's a lot cheaper.
What were you
I'll just
using?
get something.
RecView.com.
Yeah, RecView.co, actually. I won't drop what. Yeah. I won't.
What are you doing?
get on video when you talk about RecView. I was just saying on another camera.
Oh,
Oh, right. Yeah. So I've used a few different video providers. There's quite a few out there. They're all UK, like 2-year locking contract, expensive, haven't really done a heap. So yeah, we just built our own for ourselves initially. And then obviously, because a lot of our clients are seeing the video interviews, they're asking what we're using, kind of saw a little bit of a demand for it. And then it's really picked up because we've done a few deep integrations with OpenAI, which is what like all the AI stuff's built on.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so like for example, when we're sending out emails for a specific candidate, so you go on the platform, you're emailing about a candidate, you can use Write with AI, that transcribes the video, well it's already transcribed of all the notes that you've said, takes the CV and the JD and will write your email based on all that information, right? Again, you've got to go through and improve it. Things like job descriptions, when you're on call with a client and you record it, it's just got automatic note taking, right? So that's all just through OpenAI, which any platform that's really saying that their AI is just built on top of OpenAI. So since like I spent 2 years building video, and then as soon as we integrated with AI, everyone's gone wild, right? So it's like a little bit disingenuous, but yeah, and the AI stuff has really helped kind of sell it and just make it easier for recruiters. So like when we do take a job description from a client, we don't need to sit there and take notes. We just record it. Then after it gives us all the action points. And the
How would it
notes and
compare
stuff.
to like Fireflies?
So Fireflies is just like a transcribing thing for like Zoom.
Yeah, but it's a little bit hit and miss.
Yeah, so similar to that, right?
Okay,
So
cool.
all same as like the thing is all Fireflies and like Gong.ai and stuff. Like I love the SaaS space, like especially SaaS salespeople. We've just stolen everything from them basically, right? Because no one's really bought in good tech in that regard for recruitment because obviously SaaS love technology, right? So then their sales team, they'll just buy them whatever. Recruitment's not quite there yet. So it's similar, right? Like it's hit and miss. I think now since they've opened up Whisper, which is like the transcribing thing for OpenAI, it's getting a lot better. But yeah, still hit and miss. We find it like quite accurate. I think it'll be interesting when we try and go to, well, I suppose if they're picking up Australian accents, it'll be good. But like when we try and branch out overseas, if it's going to be good, because obviously the data set that Whisper's built on is just English.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say, because we're in the white label game and everyone's loves rebranding everything under their own. What was your decision-making process to make it white labeled? Because what's the other one called? Video My Job?
Video My Job's completely different.
Oh,
Like
that's way
yeah,
different.
so they're from my understanding, like I think they do like you post on LinkedIn and it's all branded up.
Yeah.
Ours is very much like recording interviews, sending BD messages over
Oh,
video. So again, I know that because I'm in it, but the decision to white label was I've just made it how I want a SaaS product to be, right? So I always wanted our videos to be all on the Starting Recruitment branding because I like our branding, right? Any video link that we send, I want it to be on our brand. Any email we send, I want it to be from my email. When you put in a calendar invite, it should be from the recruiter's email who's doing the job, not from some third-party app that no one who's a client knows what it is, right? So if people are popping up and seeing like a calendar invite with RecView. It's like, what the hell's RecView? Right? So it should all be, which made it really, really difficult to build, and like trying to get it approved by Google and Microsoft when it's completely white labeled took like a month. Whereas if it's just a platform that's not white labeled, take 30 seconds, right? But if I'm a consumer buying recruitment tech, that's how I want it. That's the same way that we've priced it, like way cheaper than everything. It could turn around to bite me in the ass, but that's how I've done it. Same as like locking contracts, or when a recruiter starts midway through the month, they jump on, you charge them for half the month. Or if someone leaves the company and they're gone and they work 10 days in that month, they're only charged for that 10 days, because that's what's always annoying me about some recruitment tech, right? You buy it and then you're like, oh, this product doesn't live up to the hype. I wasn't allowed to do a free trial, and now I'm locked in for 2 years.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this sucks,
That's
right?
That's the big
and
tech in recruitment, mate.
Right, 100%. And then everyone leaves it, and they're like, oh, why are you leaving? And then you jump on another demo, and they've updated nothing, and they're just really good sales teams, right? So a lot of the recruitment tech sales teams are great. So anytime I'm looking at recruitment tech, it's like, will you let me do a free trial because you back yourself? And is it a no locking contract because I know you back yourself, right? They're the two big things that I look for, because that way you can scale up or scale down if you need to. When you're locked into a contract, in my opinion, it's like, oh, you might not be backing yourself here, you know?
Hey, just wanted to jump in here. We got a confessions hotline, so give us a call, send us a text if you want to share any juicy stories, or even just ask a question that's been on your mind, because we'd love to hear from you. The phone number is 0485 865 483. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Mate, I went through this process with Bullhorn.
Yep.
Mate, I have never been so frustrated in my life.
Yeah, right.
So when I first started Vendito,
Yep.
I was using HubSpot
Yes.
and Bullhorn.
Yeah, I tried using HubSpot as well. You
And
want
then
to, but you
candidates
can't.
come
Yeah,
through, and
yeah.
your monthly fee's like 15 grand because you're getting all these applications.
Mate, we just did a demo with HubSpot for RecView, obviously, because like all referral and stuff, they told me they like use HubSpot. I looked at it, and you're like, oh, am I ready to spend like 20 grand a year for a CRM here, or am I just going to like try and use Job Adder and my other stuff? But we should do it properly.
Yeah,
but
we've got it for X Recruiter, mate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
What do
good though.
It does a lot of stuff.
What do you guys have?
We have
We got-
HubSpot.
we've got
HubSpot. Yeah, yeah.
HubSpot.
So we looked at, and like you can get, we're going to like if you're starting up, you can get like 90% off for the first year and stuff. So we looked at that. But I've used HubSpot previously, and it's amazing what it does.
Oh.
But when you're starting up as a recruitment, like
Because you pay
Yeah,
per
yeah.
contact.
yeah,
Is that
So
still a
when you're
thing?
getting
yeah, it's good if you've got the money there. But like when I started starting recruitment, I'm like,
Get the
I've
Excel
got no
spreadsheet
money.
doc.
Yeah,
and
I
let's
tried
get some
using like
placements, yeah.
tried using Zoho, couldn't figure that out. Tried using HubSpot. I'm like, this is going to cost me a heap. And then eventually got onto Job Adder, and we've stuck with that. But yeah, it's picking that first CRM when you're going through and you're trying to use the cheap versions.
Oh man,
And it's just,
I was using Bullhorn.
Yeah.
And Bullhorn and HubSpot because I liked HubSpot for the marketing side of
Yeah,
things,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I was using Bullhorn because that's what I knew.
Yep.
And I started, and you have to sign 12-month contracts with
Yeah.
Bullhorn.
Yeah.
But what happened was, let's say I signed my license.
Yep.
So that was a 12-month contract. I put someone on board 3 months later, and they started a 12-month license from that time.
Yeah, so it's just like that never ending. Yeah,
And I had these
Yeah.
staggered
It's like refinancing a
licenses.
home
Yeah.
loan.
It's like
Yeah.
I had these staggered
Yeah.
licenses over a year, and I'm like, oh mate,
You can never
I need-
leave.
Yeah, they're like, oh no, that license doesn't actually finish until next year, and you're like, but my contract is up in 3 months. They're
Yeah.
like, not that license, not that
Yeah.
license, or this license that ends this
That's
year. that
robbery,
ends-
and they're doing
Yeah.
that to small businesses.
And I was
Yeah.
like, mate, I can't do that. Like, what are you doing? Like, why have
you
I
get
got
out of it?
7 licenses? I just didn't pay and bailed.
Yeah. Mate,
Um,
I've heard a lot of people for like that for Bullhorn and like for video tech that they've used. They're just like, I'm just not
Yeah.
paying. It's like, what are you going to do?
I had 7 or 8 licenses, all staggered ending contract dates. I could never actually leave.
It means you can either not scale your business or you can just never leave.
Or you just
which-
have to pay lots
Yeah.
and lots of money
Yeah.
if you want to use a different software, which is what we ended up doing.
Yeah.
I think we ended up going to Job Adder
Yeah.
after. But I think, and what actually happened was, this was even worse. So I wanted to leave and I'd take all my data.
Yeah.
And there was a
the
$2,000
migration fees are huge.
$2,000
Yeah.
bucks. And so I was like, mate, I'm not paying $2,000 to take my
like, yeah.
database with me. And then so what happened is I waited out all these different random contracts. And then I went to leave, and they turned around and said, "Oh, nah, you need to be a Bullhorn user to be able to have a free a free kind of import. So I signed up one license again.
Yeah.
took the free import. They charged me $2,000, and I just said, nah, see you later. And
It's wild. It just makes it hard to. And that, again, it comes back to like how I've priced RecView is because I've been in so many situations like that. And you just end up hating the product. Even if the product's the best product on the market, you're like, I hate that you did that to me.
Yeah.
Right? Especially
so
like
dodgy.
when you're starting up. And the thing is, as you guys would know very, very well, recruitment people just talk. And they talk about tech, they talk about comms, they talk about all different things. So you can quickly get a bad name doing those things.
Yeah.
And if people are then setting up, because you kind of want to encourage those new recruitment agencies to use your product. And that's why I like the HubSpot thing that I was just talking about. Like I think in your first 12 months of your startup SaaS business, you get 90% off, right? Once all your data's in that, it's going to be a pain in the ass to move. So you're probably not, right? So you know what they're doing, but at least they're helping you grow in that regard. So everyone thinks very highly of them. Whereas when you price in a way that locks in people, human nature is to just assume that they're a bad product if they're not letting you leave on your own accord.
Yeah.
Because LinkedIn, they do prorated.
Don't get me started on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn's getting better.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn used to be like similar to Bullhorn.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Bullhorn were like cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
And they used to do these staggered licensed agreements.
Yeah, we just tried. We did. Do you guys use the corporate recruiter, the big recruiter license, or what do you use? Yeah, so we just did like a 4-month trial on them. And again, we're placing salespeople into recruitment, so they don't always have LinkedIn's, and they're quite easy to save. So we just moved back to Sales Nav, and it hasn't made to. Like I get when I did tech recruitment, like you wanted the big recruiter license to really kind of find those hard to find searches, but we're basically using it to just like top a funnel. Any salespeople, are you going to like recruitment?
Mate,
so it didn't make sense because it's expensive, the big LinkedIn licenses. Yeah.
Bloody oath. But yeah, I love it. Blake doesn't have it.
Yeah.
But yeah, for my, I love it. I just sit on there all day and have all your projects and your candidates.
Because are you doing like sales roles in lots of different niches?
Yeah,
so that makes
technical sales.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
So anyone that sells a mechanical or
cool. So they're going to be on LinkedIn, and you're going to yeah. So definitely worth it there. Yeah.
I signed a year license. I think I signed maybe 8 LinkedIn recruiter licenses, maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And my biggest issue was none of my guys used it.
Yeah.
I think I had 2,000 in-mails.
I said that
And
to
I
my
was like-
guys because we had Jake over in the reason we got it over in the UK, who's like moving experienced recruiters over. Right, so he's like, we got to get it. So I'm like, I'll try it all for my team. And I'm like, you all need to do a couple of placements directly from here and show me what it is that you couldn't do elsewhere. Because I think for like 4 licenses, I think it was going to be something like 50 grand for the year or 42 grand or something like that.
I think it's 12 grand a license.
12, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes exact mathematical sense. Yeah. Which is like quite a lot if you're doing placements from it, great. But if you're not doing placements from it, it's just sitting there.
I got it when I started. I didn't know how to use it. I was on my own and then just $587 a month or something was just getting every month deducted. And you're like, I'm out of in-mails. I can't even use this thing because you don't have good in-mail messaging. There's so many areas you have to learn to be able to get
that's what
value
we've
out
gone
of it.
like different ways. Like we just try and connect with all the people on LinkedIn directly so that we can send like a personalized video message over their LinkedIn, which you can't do on Recruiter. And then we use like sequencing tools like Source Whale to grab their personal emails, put them into an email sequence, because we just find for our candidates, for client stuff, it's quite easy because it's easy to find recruitment directors, right? But for a lot of our like entry-level sales candidates, if they've got LinkedIn, they're not using it until the day they want a new job. So there's like, you're not really getting the right traction from it. Whereas like email or like their personal LinkedIn, they're probably checking a little bit more than like the emails.
And mate, you would use LinkedIn Recruiter because it's coming out of your bank account. You'd be like, I need to use it.
Mate, when I was paying for it, did I use it?
But if you've got a recruiter that's just sitting there and they just go to Seek Talent and punch out a couple of resumes, mate, they ignore LinkedIn Recruiter because they don't realize how expensive it is.
Fair enough. But isn't the best way to weigh up and the valuation that you do on whether to get new tech, you just tell yourself, if I can just do one placement out of this, it's paid for itself.
So funnily enough, that's it's all I used to say. Oh, you're joking. I've only just realised it. I was saying that to...
There's only so many times you can say
that. Do you know
that,
Andrew Roger? He does like heaps of the automation for Bullhorn and Roy AI. He's helping us with our automation. Legend, right? But I'm like,
the Roy AI guy.
Nah, Andrew comes in and he's like a consultant and helps you set it up because all that stuff's hard, right? But I'm like, oh, mate, I'll get this product if I just do one placement for him. He's like, you really need to stop thinking in those regards. Because our fees are like almost bang on 10 grand, right? They're 11, 12, and that's bang on what of like a contract. You know, I'm like, one deal extra a month. So I've only just changed my thinking recently because
That's our running joke.
mate, I would say over the last 2 or 3 months, because I had heaps of tech, like I obviously love tech, so I don't mind spending money on it. And I think it was like just under 50K a year in spend that I didn't need to. Went back, a lot of my tech, as well, that sounds high. A lot of my tech's free because I'm selling into that industry. So people let us use it, if we recommend it, if we like it, right? And so we were still able to cut that much. I'm like, oh, this was actually pretty dumb, right?
Mate, you get the shiny ball syndrome.
I'm a magpie to those things, yeah.
Mate, tell them about your process on how to cut back on costs when you realise you've signed up to too many things. What did you used to do?
Cancel the credit card.
Yeah. Every quarter, I just cut my card up and order a new card. And then whenever I needed something, I'd be like, oh, fuck, I've got to put my card details in.
Mate, don't auto-save your card details to your computer. That's the trick. Yeah. Because there is like, you do need to, I'm speaking on Thursday at the RCSA thing on like AI and automation. And that's the big point. It's like you need someone in your business who's still recruiting, who does try out these products because they are the way forward to be efficient. But you just need to kind of like hire and you need to cancel them quickly or decide if it's the right fit because it can get quite expensive. And a lot of products that people are using have a lot of crossover. You know, like something that works in this product, probably you could do 80% just as well in this product. So I think it is important to be conscious, which is what the big players do really, really well, right? They've got people who are just managing budgets, making sure that they're not overspending. But I think when you set up a recruitment business and then it's doing well and you're like, oh, I can afford this bit of tech that a few years I couldn't, and it's going to save me heaps of time, take my money.
Mate,
Yeah.
It's so easy to be like, that looks really good.
Yeah.
I might get it's only $89 a month.
That's
I
it,
won't even feel this.
Yeah.
And then a
And
year
it's
later, you're spending like $6,000 a month on all this shit you don't use, and you're
Mate,
like, oh.
but very luckily, my twin sister is my accountant. Really good. She's like associate director at a big firm. And she just looks and she's like, do you need all this? And I'm like, yes. And then she's like, do you need all this? I'm like, oh, probably not. And she just quickly puts me in my place of like, hey, you don't need two different tools that both do email sequencing, but one does, it's slightly different. It's like, you can just use one. I'm like a kid in a candy shop when it comes to that stuff. And then you get it down because you need to, because otherwise it just gets ridiculous. And
You know what I
You
think
had all that stuff going
Oh,
on, didn't you?
mate, I did it all happen.
He
I was
had all the bells
bleeding.
and whistles, mate.
It's marketplaces. So Job Adder gets you in that mind frame. You chuck on your telly and you've got Stan, Disney, Foxtel, all this shit. Yeah, it just gets you in that reading space.
And I think like what we've done is just really simplified it. Because the other thing as well, which would have been heaps annoying to my guys, I doubt they're listening to this, so it's fine. But like I'd test something out and then I'm like, hey guys, we're using this now. And they're like, oh, sick, like something else to learn while we're trying to recruit.
That's what Blake does to me.
Yeah.
So we're changing our process again.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You need people like that keep you focused, because otherwise we would just be running around. Like I'd be like, what about this new thing? What about this new thing?
It is hard. And I speak to so many people who've like set up or who are run agencies of say like less than 10, and they're like, because I love tech, right? So always chatting to people about it, and they're like, oh, I got this, and I got this. And it's like, cool, try and get your recruiters to use that. And then it's a whole different conversation, right? And especially a lot of times the people who are making decisions on what tech, if it's a bigger agency, aren't the ones who are recruiting. Yeah. So it just makes it so much more difficult trying to implement new technology when they're not actually using it. Yeah, I'm glad I wrote this speech for Thursday because I'm just pulling out bits from it now.
What I find would be, and I'm just having this realization now, instead of getting all the new latest and greatest like bells and whistles all the time, imagine if like, let's say for example, an email sequencing automation, right? A lot of things can do email sequencing at the moment. And you're right, we probably have, to be honest, a couple of different things that all do email sequencing.
The hard bit is getting them like working with each other, right? So email sequencing in HubSpot or in sales, you can get tools that cost like $9 a month and do it, right? Trying to get an email sequencer in recruitment that integrates with like a Bullhorn or a Job Adder, it's just because it's not as a big market as sales, right? Or technology hasn't been adapted as much as it has in sales. They're still really expensive, so that because obviously if you're sending email sequences, you want that to align with a client or a candidate in your CRM, or it's worthless, right? So I think it'll slowly come down as recruitment tech becomes more prominent, or more people adapt it and use it, and these tech companies see, hey, we should probably fling and try and do a little bit of recruitment. Because I always look at these SaaS sales tools and you're like, I could be paying what for that? But then it's like, but it's not going to update my database. So essentially it's worthless because I'm going to have to manually do something or set up heaps of Zapier integrations that are probably going to break. And then it just makes it harder and you continuing down that spiral.
I think there needs to be some sort of balance between getting the new latest and greatest tech and then also spending the money maybe on your staff in soft skills.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because, I'm probably guilty of this is, I'll see something great and I'll be like, all right, guys, this is going to make our lives easier. Yeah. And it might cost me $1,000 a month to implement across my team or however much it costs. But in hindsight, if I just spend that $1,000 a month in getting a trainer in to sit down with my team, pump them up, keep morale high, show them how to do BD a little bit better, pitch a little bit better, screen candidates a little bit better, sell candidates a bit better, it'd probably be a better ROI than just implementing something.
I'm sitting here talking about tech. When we're evaluating clients to work with for starting recruitment, training is first and foremost. Do you have an internal trainer? Are your managers training? Are they still on the tools? If you don't have an internal trainer, who are you using? Who are you getting in, right? So they're the things that matter most
of the time?
Depends on the size of the agency, right? And it's quite cool because maybe when I started this, we had to, and we still do, obviously work with the bigger players because they're great training fields for recruiters coming in. But now a lot of people have left those agencies set up so they know the training, or there's lots of good external training companies that will come in, lots of good individual recruitment trainers.
Any you could recommend?
Yeah,
heaps. So Ez and Laura do HumeScope. So
you rate them?
Well, yeah, we've used them. It's good for, it depends what you're after, right? So they're great for on-video learning, teaching the theory.
Yep.
But then there's people like Scott Campbell who actually go in and will work with recruiters a couple days a week, right? So there's a few others and I can't remember their names. So there we go. But what we're looking for is the depth of training, because otherwise you turn around and someone's not done well, and it's not the recruiter's fault. Someone starting recruitment tends to be quite ambitious. They tend to want to do well, not all the time, but most of the time. If we've told you that it's a tough job for the first 12 months and you're still signing up, you probably want to do all right, right? So a lot of the times it can be down to the agency, and we're, again, in a lucky spot where we've done this for so long that we know who are good agencies, who support their people, who train them. But what it does come down to, you're right, it isn't the pretty tech stack. It is the training and making sure that people are improving and learning. On the flip side, when we're doing UK candidates with experience, so right, to get sponsored in Australia, you've got to have 2 years and a bachelor degree or 5 years of experience. They are looking at ongoing training, but they're really looking at the tech stack. So it's two different perspectives of where people are in their career, because tech stack for experienced recruiters is going to make their life heaps easy, or are they going to be doing everything manually? Recruiter, first to their recruitment role, they don't know what a CRM is, or they don't know what Job Adder or Bullhorn is. So for them and for us placing them in there, the most important thing is the training.
Okay, so I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
but
thanks.
So your general outlook is personal training for a rookie recruiter. Let's say up to 300K billings, they get more value out of someone training them one-on-one, learning, coaching.
Yeah.
Once you're like a decent biller, 500K above, then you get more value out of a more refined tech stack.
No, I think it's definitely like a Venn diagram of needing a lot of crossover, because one of the big things that I don't think certain massive agencies do well is keeping recruiters who have 5 years experience, right? They go to boutiques, set up, do something like what you guys are doing, right? And that's because they don't get that training and support anymore. What I was referring to is when these people are interviewing, what we're looking for, or what they're looking for, I should say, is the rookies are looking for training. They're asking all questions on that. A seasoned recruiter obviously still wants ongoing training and support. They need that, but they're also asking about the tech stack, whereas a rookie has no clue what tech stack's good, what's bad. So they're not really evaluating that in their decision-making. So when companies who are hiring are thinking about these things, a senior recruiter is going to be looking for more on the tech side, whereas a rookie's not.
Yeah. Okay.
If that makes
sense. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
No, that does. And so how do you balance your time between starting recruitment and RecView?
I don't.
Just 40 hours each.
It's a bit like that. So recruitment's during the day, very much so. I'm very lucky, Pete and Steve, who work with me, both been there for a year and a half, doing really well. So they've taken over the big markets, which is great. But then RecView is very much afternoons, evenings.
Oh, mate, you're preaching to the choir, brother.
Yeah, exactly, right? Because you got it. And then sometimes, like, I'll go, if the lads are smashing it, I'm like, oh, cool, I've got more time to work on the app because I'm now the sole developer on it, which is great.
Oh, you actually code it yourself?
Yeah. So
you don't use an agency or anything?
No, so we had a guy, what's his name? He was like a freelancer, he was doing 20. So I built it for like a year and a half, got it to where it was good. But again, like I said at the beginning with the branding stuff, have no idea what looks good, right? Just like blinkers on when it comes to that stuff. So got him in to do like the UX UI front end. And now we've got one of my mates who's a developer. He's doing like the Chrome extension because that's like very, very hard to do and well above my pay grade. And then it's just me. So I'm building it and then need to try and sell it on top. So that's all very much, outside the recruitment time because at the same time I need to service the markets that I do recruit to and speak to. So it's just, as you guys can imagine, like a lot of hours and hopefully one day there won't be so many hours, but I've been wanting that for a while. So
It'll come, mate. It'll come.
Yeah.
And then, like, what happens if you do get an experienced recruiter and they come to you and they're like, hey, can you find me a job because they like you? And
yeah, look, it's happened. We've done some like super senior ones just if I know, like I just placed a like jam into a medical role because I was having lunch with him. He was thinking of setting up, so we're just having that chat. I happen to know a good client who was setting up in that space, so that just worked. Most of the time, my thinking of and why we've only ever done kind of starting recruitment or starting Australia moving people is if someone's a good recruiter, they can find themselves a gig, right? Like if you're finding people and mapping a market and doing business development for a living, you can go, hey, who are my top 5 competitors that I'd like to work with? Let's drop them a message. So I don't feel like we add a heap of value there, and it's not something that all the businesses that I've grown, things that we can have processes, implement, fill people from the bottom in our business that we can reteach and scale, right? So that I can move away from doing those certain things and focus on different businesses. Whereas I feel moving senior people around, you can't have that process, right? Like you can, but I speak to other people who do like the senior rec to rec because we refer people to them. And, they're speaking to candidates, trying to find a good one, matching them with a person, but it's not like us where we're filling up teams from the entry-level stuff, which I know each month if we do X, we can place Y. Yep. So it's much more, and that's why I think like a lot of like you don't see any rec-to-rec agencies that have scaled up a team because a lot of times people do look at it more as like a lifestyle business. They've worked in recruitment, do a couple placements each month, which is great. I just got to the point where I was doing that and I'm like, I want to do these other things. So then I realized when I hired that we just had a process business because again, our fees are relatively small compared to someone placing, .NET developers. So I had to do quite a few a month for it to be a good sized business. So then when I brought Pete in and then Steve in, they were able to just replicate that process. Whereas if we did that with senior people, you're never really going to know what each month is going to look like. So that's why we've kind of avoided it because we just want to have that process, work with the branding, do what we do well. And then there's heaps of good rec-to-recs out there who do the senior stuff. We just don't touch it. Yeah.
And mate, you were referred to us from John Towie from RCSA.
Yeah, my boy.
My boy.
So,
legend,
he said you're a good bloke, which you lived up to expectations.
Oh, yep.
So, mate, the RCSA, it's our first year this year.
Yep.
How long you been a part of it? What do you like about it? What do we have to expect for Talent X?
It's cool. Like Talent X, I think it's cool to see where recruitment tech's going. Like conferences are always, like we've been to a few, can be hit and miss. Whereas like Talent X, get a couple good speakers in. You've obviously got the booths for recruitment tech demos. And I think it's just useful for people who aren't sure where the recruitment industry is going in terms of technology, right? So rather than just going, hey, this is a recruitment conference, it's focused purely on that. So all the conversations are around that.
It's really just around tech.
Yeah, Talent X is just tech, I hope. Yeah, unless we're getting that wrong. But from my understanding of going a couple of times, so I think it just helps because obviously everyone in recruitment's always asking around tech, what they can do. So I think it's just a good way to show off the RCSA. I don't know, I've been part of for like 2 years. I'm actually doing something with that I don't think I'm allowed to mention yet, so John, don't shoot me, but me and John are doing some like an AI chatbot for some learning and development stuff that should be out soon. So like John's a really good operator, the RCSA.
He's a legend, mate.
Mate,
he's Charles.
Really good. Yeah. So they like I've done a bit with them. It's just good, I guess, having that like governing body. Like obviously when he messaged, he's like, oh, yep, I vouch for these lads as well. And it's almost in a market that's like so competitive and, you know, used to be so don't speak to your competitors, having like an RCSA and a John there who goes, no, they're good lads, speak to them. They're good lads, speak to them. It's like,
they're not
cool.
good lads. Stay away from them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
I've got a hit list on my phone who not to talk to.
Yeah.
So what value do you get out of RCSA? Because I actually joined RCSA once before, and this was I didn't use it to its fullest extent.
Yeah.
You know, they've got so many resources.
Neither do I. I don't think people do. It depends on like where you're at. Like it's good to, and I remember when I first said, I hope they're not listening to this. When I first signed up to them, I'm like, hey, I'm paying the $1,200 a year so that I can put it on my email signature so people take me seriously, right? In my first year, I'm like, that's good branding. But for us, what it's useful for is like they've got for the rookies and stuff, like lots of good training content that we're able to share. And I think just putting on like these events and these like the awards night that's after is just useful for, again, a highly competitive market to like come together and share insights compared to keep like the old school like gatekeeping, you know, like back in the day, if you spoke to someone about tech, they wouldn't tell you what tech they use because they didn't want you to have the same competitive advantage. Whereas if everyone's kind of improving, it does make the recruitment industry slightly better. And then I think, like, because again, we get hit up by recruitment agencies all the time that are shocking, right? Like, you think of recruitment agencies.
What makes a shocking recruitment agency?
Like, their staff aren't getting paid. They don't get paid comms. They're like working stupid hours. They're like in an office somewhere 2 hours from Sydney, right? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know how to describe them. Just like not what you would picture like recruitment agencies as we know it. So I think having boards like that just help solidify good recruitment agencies compared to, because it's easy to set up a recruitment agency, right? Like there's no barriers to entry to do it. So there are a lot of like shady operators out there, and they always work in like markets that you've just never really heard of, right? Like
what's the weirdest one you reckon?
Oh, like a lot of the times, I'm just sledging markets now, but like a lot of times I work in like pick packing and that's all they do. And you're like, how do you even make margins on this? You know? And it's just because we speak to them and they come to us and they're like, oh, you know, what's normal for recruitment in terms of salaries? And, you know, and then we talk about comms and they're like, oh, no, we don't get paid comms. And when we first heard that, it just blew my mind because why would you do recruitment if you're not getting paid comms, right?
Yeah, I've spoken to temp construction recruiters that running like 10 to 15K desks. And they're doing like 80, 85K base, zero comms.
Yeah, so like,
Wouldn't you love to own that business?
From a shareholder's perspective, great business. But like, from the recruiter's business, not so good. Yeah, it's wild. So like, I think having industries like that kind of, I don't know how they hold people accountable. I don't know too much about it, if I'm being completely honest. But I think it's good to have something there that kind of shows the good agencies.
Yeah, 100%. And like, you can only be as good as you want to be.
Yeah.
And I find that going back to when I joined RCSA, I probably did the same thing. Like, I want to look like I'm legit.
But
I didn't actually use it to my fullest potential.
That's it. And it's like, and even like exactly like this setup, right? Like connecting good recruitment agencies together, or like the things that John and I are doing on the side that'll help like rookies. And it's kind of that almost community that they're building out, which is quite cool, right? Because the other thing is, the good thing about RCSA is they're not going to let in those shoddy agencies, right? So if someone is allowed in there and does have it, it does give you a little bit of confidence that, you know, they're half decent.
Yeah, well, mate, it took us like 6 months before we got a preferred partner.
They begged me to come in, right?
Well, see, the thing is, the RCSA have so many resources and things that you can lean on that probably people don't realise that are available to them. Yeah. And I never realised this as well.
Yeah,
but
even mate, the awards, and then they've got like documents and templates, and there's actually lots of stuff. It'd be good if they redid their site and made it a bit easier to use.
The whole governance arm?
Yeah, exactly. Mate. Like, which doesn't affect what I do whatsoever, but like whenever someone's setting up, we always put them in touch with John, because it's like, cool, this stuff's massively going to help, or you're going to spend heaps on legal fees. And it's the stuff that they do behind the scenes. Like Andrew and I did like a webinar for the RCSA on AI and what they're trying to do to like, you know, is it going to take our jobs, that kind of thing, so that then they can inform different businesses. So they actually, I was the same, like I'm paying this for my email signature. People think I'm legit. And then over the years, I've kind of seen that background stuff. Again, not super relevant to what we do because we place people into their first recruitment role, right? But if you're dealing with like awards and contracts and different legal, even like when the government changes, they're always sending out emails on what's going to happen. So like, I think they just give a lot of reassurance to agencies that probably can't ask their direct competitor, hey, what's going on here? Yeah.
100%. And did S3, because you mentioned your like the community's only starting to come together now in recruitment, and every other industry it's very widespread. Was your starting recruitment very much like enemy over the hill mentality as well? You personally experienced that?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'd never thought of it like that, but yeah, definitely. Like you wouldn't, even like we had mates who were in different recruitment agencies and we'd all meet at the Shelley, have a beer. It's like, no one taught work. Right, it's like they're not going to know that candidate that you've spoken to. But
your mates are like telling you a recruitment story about work.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, so this client. You're like, oh, who's that? Oh, just a client, mate.
Yeah. Really weird.
Yeah,
it's almost like, what, you think I'm going to be your client, mate?
And
like,
he was at the pub, he'd had way too many beers, work with me. But it was that mentality. And look, I think it's probably definitely still there because it's just that, again, that natural urge to go, oh, don't. It's actually quite hard to be open and share different things. Like even when we're speaking with clients around like tech and automation and different things that we're using, the natural urge from those years is to kind of gatekeep it, which obviously doesn't help anyone. And probably the big thing I learned during COVID, because we weren't placing any rookies into recruitment, obviously. So I was just helping like clients set up like active campaign or different things like that because I was bored. I was sitting at home. I'm like, this will be good client development in the future. And you just build way better relationships that way, right? Like by actually help, which, you know, as you say, it sounds common sense, but it's so ingrained to keep your secrets to yourself in recruitment. But I do find that is definitely shifting, and things like the RCSA and what you guys are doing, and like just having a chat with someone about, hey, we use this is great. Pushes the industry forward.
What do you reckon is a well-priced, essential tech stack that you should have if you're a recruiter?
Well priced. So obviously RecView. It depends what you want to use. Like I find like one that we absolutely love, but it's definitely not well priced, is Sourcewhale, which is like an email sequencing tool, but it runs over LinkedIn. Each of the first emails, and this is one that I actually pay for, so like I'm not even getting a kickback from it. Like you can tailor the first message, we put in a video there, and then just put some, again, it's basic sales stuff, but no one does it in recruitment. Sends them an email, a few days later, sends them the follow-up. Like a lot have that built in there now, but that one you can change the first message, make it super personalized, and then if you're using something like lavender.io over the top, that's pulling all this. So the other day, I was speaking to a new business, whacking them in. I saw that they'd raised this was from RecView as well. So I saw that they raised like 5 million because the data pulled. I just quickly whacked that in there. So what would have used to have taken me quite a while in a bit of research was just 2 Chrome extensions. And I think those kind of things, again, that save time, but then make it in an AI-driven world that we're moving into, any personalization that you can do. That's why we do videos on everything. That's what makes a difference. So then if you can find a tool that helps you automate the personalization, you're onto a bit of a winner.
True. Yeah. And what's the speech going to be about at Talent X? Like,
oh, mate, I don't know. I've been trying to write it. It's just all about AI and automation and kind of tools and where recruitment's going, and more along like having a framework on how you can incorporate new tech and AI in. That's why we've been probably chatting about it today, into your system, right? So like the big point is having an internal champion. So someone who's still on the books, actively recruiting, because a lot of the times if you're a bigger agency, the person who makes a decision on new tech isn't the person who's still recruiting. Like a lot of times they aren't still recruiting. So why are they signing off on new technology that a recruiter's using? And especially as advancements speed up, that could be outdated in 6 months, or there could be something new that you need to start using. So if you've got an internal champion who's maybe like got 5 years of recruitment, big biller, loves tech, and you give them the role of, hey, just try out new tech. Let us know what you think. What do we want to implement? And make that their role rather than the managing director who, just hasn't recruited in a while. So it's just about shifting that to be adaptable to new things coming in, because the last 10, 15 years, nothing's happened a heap, right? Like you had like Seek and job boards came in. I've learnt before that like people used to fax CVs. Did you?
Mate,
ever
Post
know
them?
that?
Post them. They used to have a bike. They used to pedal down and drop them off.
What?
Yeah.
Greg
Right.
Savage.
Yeah,
Greg
right.
Savage, Andrew Banks.
Yeah.
He'd just jump on his bike and just go down to the the banking firm, and then just drop off a CV, try and lock them in.
Wild, right? Completely wild. So that's what I mean. Like sometimes they're the blokes who are making the decision on the new tech. Great at running recruitment companies, but if you haven't actively recruited for a while, you're probably not the best person to make the decision on the new tech.
Yeah.
So it's just about creating that framework that lets someone test out new technology in the business rather than being, the senior or owner of the business.
Do you reckon it's going to be a tipping point? I know we're in this archaic space of recruitment where, you said nothing's been done in 15 years. Do you reckon the whole industry is just going to go and it's just going to be tech, AI?
Yeah, like I think parts of it will be. And I think again, it's down to like if the agencies want to use it, but you think like there's no one who still posts CVs, right? So the natural progression, even back then, people would have been like, oh, I'm not sending an email of a candidate. Emails are fat, it'll never catch on. Now everyone uses email. So it's just one of those things that's inevitable, right? Like that'll just happen. And the big thing that we're talking about at the RCSA is people don't need to be across like setting up API integrations with OpenAI. All your tech will just have it built in, right? So like in the next 6 to 12 months, job ad at Bourke, whatever you're using, will just have AI built in because all the products are just building on top of it, or you'll have other products that sit on top of the tech stack that you're using that use it. So I think it'll just become like a normal thing, right? Yeah, like exactly like when LinkedIn, I'm assuming, came in and people were like, oh, that'll never catch on. And now it's a big source that people use. Like it's not going to be this massive shift where no one knows what to do.
Go, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I think it'll just help. And then obviously there's things that it can't do, which is like chat to people, which is what we get, in my opinion, that's what we get paid for. Right. And that's all I've ever done is just automate and use tools so that we can speak to way more people. And that's the goal of a recruitment agency. Like most good recruiters are horrible at admin, like myself included. I'll call myself a good recruiter, but I'm horrible at admin, right? So if I can replace that and speak to an extra 2 candidates because I'm not having to update stuff in job adder or like go through and go, oh, this is what the candidate said because it's recorded and takes the notes for me, that's a good, useful tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
So where's the next few years for Starting Recruitment and RecView? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, good question. So next year, me and my partner are moving to hopefully Italy or Portugal. So we're going to do a year of sales for RecView in Australia, build it up, probably hire some more to work with Pete and Steve for Starting Recruitment, and then go and sell into the UK market. So go and sell RecView into the UK market is the plan, because like I think Australia, actually you guys will probably have the stats on this, but Australia has what, like 6,000 recruitment agencies or something?
8,300.
8,300. Good, thank you for that.
8,312.
26,248.
Yeah. But is it 8,000? Is that roughly what it is?
Yeah.
And then I think the UK's got something like
50,000.
Yeah, so we want to get like a good solid base here. I also just want to go live in Europe for a year before.
There's 9,000 in London City.
Yeah, you're gonna and a lot of them are like small 1 or 2 man bands that we can usually who probably don't use video because it's super expensive for the 1 or 2 small bands, and they're the ones that we're targeting, right?
Yeah.
So,
Question. So say you're all these decision makers are, so far off the tools.
Yeah.
Could just a recruiter say, Amy at Blended goes, hey, I just want to use...
Mate, funnily enough, and I don't know how this will work from a sales perspective, because we're letting everyone trial RecView, right? Because again, something I'm passionate about. We've got so many, and usually they've got to get sign off. Hopefully it'll work out and they'll get sign off, but we've got so many, like 1 or 2 people in a recruitment agency using RecView.
Oh, awesome.
Right? So, and we've just let them use it for free. For us, it's like, cool, because how we recruit is very different to how other people recruit. So we just wanted to get as many people using it, make sure it works properly, all bugs out from different like use cases, and then see how someone in tech uses it, see how someone in finance uses it. So we've been letting people use it for like the last 3 months. We've been using it for about 18 months ourselves, right? But the last 3 months have really sped up the development because we're like, oh, cool, I never thought of doing it like that.
Mate, I think there's an untapped market selling to retail recruiters. When I say retail recruiters, selling directly to the recruiter instead of the agency owner. Because like if you can try and get a recruiter wanting to use the software for themselves without having to get their boss to sign off on it.
The problem is though that a lot probably don't want to pay for their own recruitment tech. But like for you're right though, because like, and technically they could do that. And
we used to have to pay for our own LinkedIn licenses at our last agency.
What?
Yeah, mate.
Where did you guys work?
You want LinkedIn Premium, mate? You put your card in, mate.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Actually?
Yeah, dead
Yeah,
set. We
legit.
had zero tech. We had bullhorn, which no one filled
Is that
out.
even legal to, like, I suppose? Yeah, that's what
Yeah, it's legal, mate.
I've never heard of anyone paying. I'm
we had
going to clip that and show my guys. Like,
Yeah, mate.
Be appreciative.
Yeah.
Everyone at Starting Recruitment, you haven't had it as hard as us.
No, I had to pay. No, I've never had to pay. That's wild.
Yeah, so we would have our own. We'd have to show our own initiative if we wanted to implement things to make our lives easier.
Mate, my guys have an Airwalks card, so when they're taking out drinks, they've got their own card to pay for clients again, and you guys are out here.
Recruiters get it sweet these days. Like my guys, they get it absolutely sweet. They don't realise how hard it was. You know, we have like VAs that build like hit lists for them, for them to prospect. Mate, when we were starting, you'd be smashing the phones all day, and then from 6 p.m. to like 10 p.m. at night, you'd be getting your data ready for the next day to hit the phones again. And my guy's like, oh, there's nothing's been updated on this hit list of leads. Can you please update it for me so I can make some calls? It's like, why don't you do it yourself? And so
I bought Lusher. I used to pay for Lusher.
Yeah, actually, I think at S3 we bought our own Lusher because I don't think they understood what it was and what it did.
It was like voodoo back then.
Yeah, and I think me and my mate Jim shared like, and the whole office shared like one office, and we'd run over the computer and like get that number. And like as a director, sure, you're looking at that and going, oh, hold on, if they can get the phone number of the person they want to speak to, that's worth $80, right? Because and that's like, again, comes when I set up, all I wanted to do was automate everything, because it's like you just waste so much time doing stuff like that. And it's like, cool, if you can pay $80 and get the number, how many more calls are you going to make in a day? Probably like 20, because you're not
what
mucking
ends
around.
What ends up happening though, and it's happened to my guys, is they get this, if it's not in front of me, I'm not going to go and get it.
Yeah.
So it'll be like, you're like, oh, how are you going with candidates? Yeah, haven't been able to call anyone. Why? Numbers haven't been available on Lusher.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
you still need someone with the hunter mentality behind
or
them.
Or the VAs are in there. Oh, the VAs haven't found very good candidates. So
how have you guys gone with VAs? I've been hit and miss with them over the years.
I've had lucky, mate. I got one guy that used to work with you. Didn't work out.
Yeah, who was that?
What's his name? He's a nice guy.
What, a VA?
Did you?
A VA, yeah.
Jameer, maybe?
Jameer, yeah.
Yeah.
I used him for a bit. Just didn't really crack the mustard.
Oh, he was good. I liked him. We went like direct to VAs rather than use it because I wanted them to do that. But then, one of my mates who runs a recruitment company called me. He's like, how many hours are you paying Jameer for? I'm like, 40 hours. He's like, oh, he's been working for me for 2 months and he's just told me that he works for you part-time. So we're both paying him for, which I love the hustle, right? You're also coming from like
he gets other people on.
Yeah.
Say you want to get a hit list built and you want 1,000 contacts from someone, you'll pay $1 a contact, or say you pay whatever.
Interesting.
They just go and get someone else that's on $1 an hour.
Yeah,
to do the work.
So
that's how they all do it.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So they'll be the front end.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But then I use a Filipino, Elton, I forget the name, Elton something. They're a Filipino
outsourcing
recruitment agency. Yeah. They're all in your Slack channel, mate. They're really good.
So that's whenever we've had them, and even for like the developer from RecView, we've always tried to like, which is actually makes sense why Jimmy didn't work out. He was with us for like a year, but we've always tried to like ingrain that person into our team, like jump on a call so that it's not like that, oh, we're paying you no money over there. Like we always paid above, always paid our VAs like comms and stuff so that they're part of the team. But if then they were outsourcing it, that explains why we didn't get that team team vibe.
I've had Andrea for I think 10 months.
Yeah, nice.
She's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Really good.
Nice.
And then we've had Joe for
very short time.
It does make if you get
I
them
haven't
right
hired enough to realize what's good and bad.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's again like using tech, like trying to. You feel bad because you're not giving them enough time training them up. Because you do need to get the VA situation right.
Yeah, when I was just doing blended and I had her and we were pumping.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I get to the end of the day and she's like, I'm like, oh, I forgot to send her some jobs. Or she's finished on another job. And I'll be like, oh, I'll just chat to Amy. Yeah. She's like, I've spoken to her. She's all good. I'm like, oh, so she just did nothing today.
Yeah, that's
so that transition lately. I've got to get back on.
Yeah.
Sort that out.
Definitely. Yeah, it does come down to you as the owner of like making sure. I'm the same with our marketing girl, Katie. She's like, oh, I'm working today. And I'm just like, cool, I haven't thought of anything, but she's great because she goes and does everything, and then I'm just like, I see something on Instagram or something, I'm like, oh, that's sick. And I'm like, cool. So like I like people like that where it's like, oh, John's not going to tell us what to do.
Yeah,
I better like make some stuff happen.
Yeah.
They're the people you want in your business.
Bloody oath. Yeah. That's when you realise you have a business.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Oh,
that's
awesome.
epic. Sweet, mate.
What's the time?
Nice. Yeah, it's been a long chat.
Has it?
We
better. Did we mention anything about
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Bourne. So I hope you guys can edit that down.
Jeez, mate. To recover after this podcast, I'm going to need some CBD oil.
All right, actually, let's end this on our questions.
Oh, yeah, we didn't do
Yeah.
questions. Do it, mate.
Do you want me to pick it? I'll do the job. I'll let you read it to me. Yeah.
Oh, cute.
That's it.
Oh, we've already been asked. Do a different one.
Do you want?
That was the previous one.
They're quite cool. Did you get them made up? Yeah, fuck yeah. Nice.
All right,
Just fan them
Right,
out.
yeah. All right.
We just went through all those
Just we want to pick a specific one. Yeah.
We've got a pile of questions
here.
that we're only going to choose the one that we want to ask.
No, yeah, we've already asked those questions on another pod. But yeah, mate, lucky dude.
Is video software useful? Yes. I'll pick one. Yep.
Yep.
Do you want me to give it? Do you want to check it before you read it?
Okay. How do you balance the need for results with maintaining a positive candidate experience?
Oh, good question. I thought you were going to go with managing a team, but I think it's, again, quite lucky for us in that we're always been quite candidate-led, right? And the way that I've always looked at it, because even when mates have set up, it's just like, cool, you're going to lose it, and it's going to feel like you're losing 10, 15 grand, because you had it there and it was the final. But if they're not getting the job, they're not getting the job, right? There's nothing you can do. All you can do is, we really only manage on first round interviews, or not set KPIs, but it's like, that's a big indicator if we're doing a good job. Apart from that, a lot's out of your control. You can't, and if you are trying to force someone to take a job that's not right for them, you're just going to have to replace it, right? Or you're going to have to backfill it, or you're going to get a bad name in the industry. So looking at Starting Recruitment, like I always have as a brand, rather than a recruitment agency, has definitely helped manage that. And then just having realistic expectations, right? Like just because someone interviews doesn't mean they're going to get a job. Don't count it that way. Count it once they're 3 to 6 months in the role, and you're not going to have to backfill it. So that's probably just setting those mental expectations is probably.
Love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And mate,
There's a few. Nice. Yep.
Oh, we've already done that. So
How many have we done?
we've done a fair few.
This is a good one.
How many podcasts have you guys done
40?
in the
Yeah,
trip?
I was
Yeah, fuck yeah, nice.
40.
Yep.
What's the most cringiest moment you've had in recruitment?
Oh, mate. Go to my LinkedIn, watch any of my videos. Yeah. See when my mates send it in the group chat. Yeah, good question. Probably doing that, right? Because like as recruiters, happy to jump on a call, happy to go meet someone because no one's got eyes on you. Doing video content, and you guys probably the first podcast that you did, you felt so cringy, right? Like, because it's hard. You're not used to it. It's not on the job description when you started recruitment years ago. It's not like, hey, you're going to be doing a podcast speaking to people, and the first few are going to sound shit.
Mate, we felt awesome. And then we looked
did
back
ya?
at it
Right.
and we were like, oh, shit.
Should we delete that and do it again?
Oh, cool. I was the opposite, but no, both times felt cringy. But yeah, that's probably the big one. Like when we were talking before, like I did when we launched Starting Australia, like made poor Pete when we were in Bali film a video of me popping out of the pool, but got like 3 or 4 new clients on from that, placed a couple of candidates from it who saw it because no one's doing a heap.
I think I saw that actually.
Yeah, we were chatting about it before, but it's
so
like
good.
super cringy, right? But this is what I say to my team and remind myself all the time. You think it's cringy, but people aren't doing it. Most of the people who watch it go, oh, that's actually pretty sick, right? Because they're not going to have the confidence to do it, or they'd never thought of doing it like that. It's just your own internal voices that's like, oh, that's heaps cringy. I'd probably like Katie and I did one for Starting Australia where I had to take it like 100 times because the mic wasn't working, jumping in front of the Opera House. Again, great for retargeting people on Instagram and TikTok to move to Australia. When people are walking past Opera Bar and you're jumping going, hi, I'm John. Oh, you just want to throw yourself in the water. Like it's so cringy, right? Yeah, that's the cringiest moments in recruitment.
Awesome. Love it.
Mate, gold.
One more.
One more, yep.
Oh, ooh, this one's a bit juicy.
Oh,
hey. Tell us about a time where you burnt a bridge with a client.
Oh, mate, the best thing I feel you start your recruitment career when you turn away a client, right? Like that's when you're like, it's cool, I could do this, right? So we've had only a handful of clients that we've placed people in, and the client hasn't been truthful about what the role was, right? And now when we evaluate clients, we're looking at, does this client just shit on rookies? like you speak to a client, they're like, oh, I can't get good rookies. No one wants to work 16 hours a day for no money. And you're like, yeah, of course not, because they can go somewhere else and do it. So we've had to turn down a few clients who like seems, and they're always the ones that seem super progressive. But then like if someone's a minute late, they're yelling at them through the door, right? Or the training's not there, or they've been promised. When you're starting recruitment, you should be speaking to candidates, really learning the market. And then they go in the first day and they're just like cold calling 100 businesses. And they're like, I have no idea what I'm meant to say, right? Of course, no one's going to succeed in that. Have people succeeded in that? Yes. So these people have set those businesses up, see that, and they're like, this is how I learned recruitment, right? Doesn't mean that's the best way to do it now, not if you want to keep staff, right? So there's been a few, but we've liked it. And you've just had to be like, one didn't work out and we had it in our terms that we were meant to replace the candidate. I just refunded them the money. Not sure if that's legal or whatnot, but it's like, cool, we're probably not the best agency for you to use. I didn't want to send any candidates there anymore because I didn't want to work in that business.
You refunded them after they were a bad client.
Because the person left within obviously the
because they're
time frame.
A shit
They're
client.
just a horrible. Like I went and saw this girl and she's crying. Like they hadn't lived up to what they'd sold in the office. So yeah, we just refunded the fee rather than, which they were happy with, but rather than replace it, because it's like, cool, if we replace this, we're just going to get another issue. We're just going to have another issue. So yeah, I feel like
stand up man.
Yeah,
stand up man. I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but like otherwise you're just going to, you're going to have to replace it.
No, Blake would have not replaced it and not given the feedback because it was a bad experience. Is that right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Would you have done
I'd prefer not to get sued, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I would. If it was honestly that bad,
yeah,
I would have.
Someone was crying.
Yeah, I would have been like, no, I'm not putting another candidate in you, and they would have been like, well, where's my replacement? I'd say, yep, all right, I'll work your replacement.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, yeah, true. I see what you're saying, but it's I don't know. We've always tried to do everything like by the book, really well, reputable, because the brand's the most important thing. And yeah, I just feel like giving them money back. Nothing they can say, nothing they can do. Yeah. It's like, we're done, burning bridges, gone.
Love it.
Yeah, but that like felt good, right? Because you just want to, that's it. Like when you get good at recruitment or when you feel like you're doing well is when you can turn away shit business and when you can just work with clients that look after their people, especially in what we do, right? We just want people who look after their people, who are going to train them, who are going to turn them into good recruiters, who are going to look after them. Like that's all we want. So if someone's not going to do that, there's a heap of great recruitment agencies out there that will. So why are we going to work with the shit ones? Has 100%. Always been the mentality. Yeah.
Love it. Well, mate, this has been a really fun episode.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah. We got through it.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? We need to do our sponsor.
Have you ever tried this stuff?
Coffee.
Coffee, yeah.
Have you ever had coffee before?
Yeah, I've had one or two. Little
you had one today, mate.
Yeah, thank you for that.
This is before you speak, the OG.
Nice. So do I get to keep this?
Get that around you.
Probably not the whole thing. You can have a sachet, mate.
Oh, perfect. Win.
This is our marketing boxes
that
we like to put on the table. But before you speak coffee, it's like a performance coffee. It's got a lot of extracts and extra.
Watch out, Stephen Bartlett. Here come the lads with the endorsements. I love it. Yeah.
And it's actually really, really yummy.
Yeah, nice. I'll try one now.
Yeah. So
we'll mix you one up. And then, mate, if you want to recover after Talent X, you can get on the old CBD 1000 from Advanced Extracts.
Oh, mate, I think a KFC Zinger box will do this.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us.
Hey, lads, thanks for having me on.
And we'll see you at Talent X.
See you then. Perfect.
Thanks for tuning in to another Confessions of a Recruiter podcast with Blake and Declan. We hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value and insights out of this episode. If you do have any questions or you would like to recommend someone to come on the Confessions podcast, we would love any introductions. And remember the rule of the podcast: like, share, and recommend it to a friend. Until next time.